cat in the wall, eh? Okay, now you're talking my language.
Do you ever drunk Baileys from a shoe?
Oh, great. Thanks, Mother, for replacing the baby aspirin with LSD.
How much you want to make a bet I can throw a football over the mountain?
All right, welcome into the View from C-Deck, and here with our post-draft recap here for the Buckeyes, but also the Ohio teams, because, man, they were front and center. And if you were a Shedeur Sanders hater and a Browns hater, this weekend was your freaking weekend. And I'm here with the Haas, Jason, who is a Browns fan, but sometimes hater. And I have to ask you right off the bat how you felt. We'll get into the Buckeyes with their 14 draft picks. It was a great weekend for them, for sure. But I have to ask you right away. The Browns take two QBs, Dylan Gabriel in the third round, which was a huge reach by most people's calculations and mocks. And then they finally stopped Shedeur's slide in the fifth round later on.
Yeah. If anybody thinks that Andrew Berry didn't have any part in the Deshaun Watson trade, after watching this draft, you clearly have to live under a rock because he doesn't know player personnel. I think I'll give him hats off acquiring picks, scheming up some decent trades. But when it comes to the Browns, the meat and potatoes of this team, he has been the GM now for 5 years. He has drafted there are 4 starters on the team that he has drafted, none of whom are really good.
In 5 years. That's nuts.
In 5 years. Myles Garrett, Dave Njoku, Denzel Ward, the 3 best players on the team, were all drafted by John Dorsey. John Dorsey's first 4 picks of the 2018 draft are still starters on the team. So Andrew Berry does not know how to draft players. And when it comes to this draft in particular, if you would have switched Mason Graham out for the Missouri tackle or one of the best other tackles in the draft at number 5, drafting an offensive tackle, which is what we need. We need a left tackle or right tackle. I would give this draft a lot better grade. I'd give it like a B or an A, because then we're revamping the offense, which is what we scored like with 15.5 points per game last year, which was pitiful. But this draft is just all over the place. He drafted 2 running backs and 2 quarterbacks, and I don't know. I'm at a loss for words just because of I don't know what the hell he's going for.
I think there may have been a plan to start and they didn't stick to it.
No.
It's always a dangerous proposition when anybody that's been in a fantasy draft and you start off with a plan like, I'm going to go no running backs at first. And then you suddenly decide to take one and then later on you're like, oh crap, I don't have a wide receiver. I didn't have a plan to grab another receiver or something like that. It was hilarious though to watch it all unfold, because every Browns fan I know is going, what the F are we doing when you drafted Gabriel and then you get Shedeur later on? I'm like, you had to have wasted draft capital.
Gabriel was a bad enough pick on his own. If you would have just picked Shedeur there, I think everybody would have been, okay, cool. We see why you did it. The value was there. But you now realize you wasted one of these picks is wasted. Because if let's say Gabriel somehow sees the first before Shedeur and he doesn't make it and then Shedeur replaces him, you're never going to put Gabriel back on the field. You're not going to flip-flop these quarterbacks. So one of these quarterbacks isn't going to be the Browns quarterback. So you wasted one of these picks, and it's probably the Gabriel pick if I had to take a guess.
And you traded a pick for Kenny Pickett, which also is now wasted for sure. So you had to have wasted 2 picks. Now they aren't huge picks, and good thing you traded back and got some more capital for the future. It's just very interesting. Let's go. We'll go back to the Browns later when we talk about the Bengals, who also by a lot of people's thoughts had the worst draft in the entire league. But we'll talk about the Buckeyes first. Positives: 14 Buckeyes go, 4 in the first round, 7 of the first 45 picks, which is nuts. I believe both tied records for 7 in the first 2 rounds tied a record for them as well. The 5 in the first round in 2016 is still the record as a team. But 14 guys overall. Seth McLaughlin, the only one who was projected to get picked that didn't, which I should have brought it up on our preview. I didn't, but I was worried that was going to happen, because if I was a GM, I wouldn't have drafted him, because that injury, he's not going to play this year. Even though he says he will be, he won't. And he's going to, at least be pupped for 6 weeks is the best case scenario. And I still think he doesn't play. So using a draft pick on a guy who's not going to play the first year and isn't an overwhelming talent isn't something I would do, so I don't mind it. Who'd you like though for a landing spot for the Buckeyes? All these guys go, Emeka, Donovan, Josh Simmons, and Tyleik Williams. Kind of a surprise in the first round.
Just the first round guys, or just overall in general?
Overall.
I like Travion on the Patriots. They're Mike Vrabel. He knows to run the ball, and he's got Ramondre Stevenson there, so he's not going to have to completely carry the load there. Drake May, there's something for him in there in New England where I think they are doing things the effing right way. So I like Travion a lot. Quinshon, honestly, I like him in Cleveland too. The more I thought about it, I hated it at first, but the more I think about it, he is a competent running back, and the Browns got Sampson too. So I think he, not getting 3-down work will be a good thing for him. So I'm happy with him being on the Browns just to see what he can kind of come into. I don't know. I was paying attention to those two mostly. But yeah, obviously the big story is Will and Jack Sawyer being together. Both of them fell. Wasn't surprised by Will after all the quarterbacks started to slide. He was just he was caught in the crossfire between all the quarterbacks sliding. Jack, obviously the tape caught up to him. Lower body weakness, kind of stiff in the hips is what everybody kept saying. So
I think it's measurables in general that caught up to him. Short arms, he's gator arm too.
Yeah. For them to both be on the Steelers though, competent franchise, that's a good sign for those guys' career. Yeah.
Although outside rushers for Buckeyes that have been drafted by the Steelers have not turned out particularly great. But that's okay. And I think that was a great landing spot for him because he has a chance, even if Rodgers does show up, he won't start this year unless Rodgers gets hurt, which is a decent possibility. Yep. But I think he's got a chance. I think he can outplay Mason Rudolph. Like, what can Mason Rudolph do that he can't? Mason check down Rudolph. Besides maybe, he just has experience. That's it. But I like where he landed because he's got a runway to become the starter there.
Yes.
In a year or so. Like he has it there if he can figure it out. And if he does actually have the NFL skills, he'll get the chance to do it. You can't say that for a lot of other quarterbacks where they landed. Like one of Shedeur or Gabriel's not going to get an actual chance because of where they landed. I like where Travion landed too, and I like where Josh Simmons landed. I mean, I said it in that's where I thought he landed. I was like, where do you get when does a team like that get a chance to take a top tackle type of player? They're going to take it, and and the Chiefs, of course, they're a smart franchise. They did. He's just got to get himself healthy, and maybe he starts out in the pup too a little bit. But if he gets himself healthy, he'll be starting halfway through the year and gets to play with Patrick Mahomes for the best part of his career right now. And they want to unleash their passing game too, according to Mahomes. So great spot for him to be successful. Not many of these guys did I not like where they ended up landing. Like, do you think
there's two that come to mind for me?
Yeah.
I don't like where Tyleik Williams landed. They are lacking star power. They're lacking a pass rush outside of Aiden Hutchinson. So I think with them drafting him in the first round, I think Lions fans and everything are going to be kind of expecting him to be getting monster sack numbers for a guy to be picked that high. And I think there might be some growing pains with his pass rush abilities coming into the league. I think he'll be still a good run stopper, but they already had some decent run stoppers at defensive tackle position. So them going D tackle there, I think he might get a little of the fan heat, maybe a little bit there. That's just reading into it a little bit much. Emeka, obviously, is going to Emeka tough though. Emeka's struggling for playing time this year. It's kind of similar to what Seattle did, drafting Jackson Smith. Like, obviously, Tampa's like in that tweener stage where they know they're competing, but they're never going to really like compete. So they still have to draft for the future. So like then they know like they're only going to get maybe 2 more years out of Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. So they're trying to draft some replacement. They have McMillan. So he's not like Jackson's first year was kind of a dud too, just kind of. So I think Emeka's going to have a backseat this year in that offense for sure.
Yeah, that's going to be very tough for him to crack, to do anything like real in the first year. And then it always gets tough. Like if you don't do it the first year, suddenly there becomes pressure. Luckily, JSN overcame it, but you're right. That's like a really, really good comparison since they had Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf already when they did that trade. That's probably like the worst spot that I would think of too. I also like our guys that didn't get drafted, where Josh Fryer ended up with Justin Fry in Arizona. I think he's got a really good shot. I mean, I think he's really, really good shot to make the practice squad, but I think he could make the roster there. You and I talked about him being possibly drafted and not really understanding why he wasn't like totally off everybody's rankings list. Yeah. And we saw players that were not on ranking lists get drafted, but
they got Cody Simon too.
They did. And
yeah, they got Cody Simon. They have Marv. They have Paris Johnson.
They drafted another one too. They drafted 2 Buckeyes. Oh, Denzel, I believe they drafted.
Yeah. All right, go for the Arizona Buckeyes. Yeah, overall it was kind of a weird draft. But when it came to the Buckeyes, I think a lot of them came out on the winning end. You know, they like Quinshon and Travion, I definitely think came out on the winning end. And like, I mean, for 4 people to get drafted in the first round, we're definitely big step for the program. JTT actually, I think, went higher than he actually stuck with his projection, and so it's good to kind of see these guys, and I'll be paying attention to that now that they're national champions. I think we pay more attention to these types of guys.
Yeah. One interesting trend before we get into our pro teams. So Buckeyes have 14 drafted, which is 1 off the record, tied their own school record. But right behind them was Georgia with 13. Right behind them was, I believe, Texas with 12, and then Oregon had 10. By the way, that's the 4 preseason top 4 teams in the country last year. So people were right about them. Do you see? I feel like this record's going to get challenged every year now because of the NIL stuff and the talent kind of consolidating onto these rosters. Like with who's like Texas has gotten in the portal this offseason combined with their normal recruiting and stuff, like they're going to be challenging again next year, I think.
Yeah, the proof's in the pudding. Seriously, like you take away some of Seth McLaughlin would have got drafted.
Yeah, we would have timed if he hadn't been hurt. Yes.
Like Will Howard, Quinch, like all of the transfers here, but I mean we drafted well, so it's a product of that. But yeah, that transfer portal is going to really beef up these schools' numbers. 15, man, that was a really good F in Georgia team. I think that was a really good damn near Buckeyes team. You know, just right, I'd say it's right on that level with that Georgia team. I don't know if it's going to be challenged every year like this, but I could see like most teams getting like 12, 13 guys a year. 15 would be like one hell of a team that where players leave. Yeah, I'm just trying to think. Yeah,
was 31 of the 37 guys that got any PT in their 2021 team got drafted.
Yeah, that was a smoke show of a team.
Yeah.
I mean, similar to like the 2014 Buckeyes team. Like after a couple of years, like all those fucking guys got drafted, and they ended up. A lot of those guys were studs in the NFL, and we're seeing that in that Georgia team. A lot of those defensive guys it took them a couple of years, but they're all like defensive. The Philadelphia Eagles, half their fucking defense is the fucking Georgia is the Georgia team. So yeah, I mean,
I can see that they got all these Georgia guys, but not the right ones. So talking about the. Also, one other thing about that, it's also with this playoff and these extra games against good teams, I think that's helping too to elevate you. If you're on a good team, you'll get more opportunities to prove it against top echelon talent and gives you better opportunity to get drafted later on, you know, even if it's a late round pick. Like maybe Denzel doesn't get drafted if it weren't for his kind of redemption in the playoff where he showed that he could stick with faster receivers and all that.
Yeah.
Now to our teams, the Ohio NFL teams and the NFL draft as a whole. Obviously, the Shedeur Sanders slides the story of the draft and Mel Kiper's subsequent meltdown over it, which, man, it has destroyed his credibility online. I know that. I don't know about in real life as much, but it was pretty funny. But the Bengals, in our preview, I said the player I think was the biggest bust was Shamar Stewart, and that's who the Bengals go with in the first round, a guy with 4.5 career sacks in 3 seasons and hundreds of snaps, which just drives me nuts when there's all kinds of talent like Derek Harmon sitting there that they could also use, or a cornerback they could have, like, was Barron? Yeah, Barron was still there on the board. Oops. Like, the secondary is not solved at all. They do need a pass rusher, but this guy isn't a pass rusher according to everything except for what he can do in his shorts. And then they go linebacker guard in the in-between rounds. Not that they were terrible picks, but those are maybe the two least impactful positions on both sides of the ball, right? Like off-ball linebacker, not edge linebacker, off-ball linebacker and guard.
Well, the Browns and Bengals were the only teams in the league that got the memo that this year they're doing 22 on 22, where there's two of every position on the field. So it makes sense. I mean, the Browns are trotting out there. They got 5 quarterbacks in the room. They've already beaten the competition to it. So we're going to have a really nasty front 22. Man, but yeah, I get it. Like your offensive line was the weakest part. Your defensive, like you guys are trying to. I don't know. Drafting well. Have you guys drafted well outside of T. Higgins?
Offensively, yes. Defensively, It's been atrocious.
Well, I mean, could you even say offensively outside of Burrow, Higgins, and Chase? Maybe Chase Brown. You guys haven't drafted a tight end. You guys
Mims was last year. I think Mims was a great pick. Actually, it's gonna turn out to be a great pick. You're right. On the offensive line, though, no. But I think their they did fire the offensive line coach last year, and I think he's been
always the problem.
Yeah, I think he's been a huge problem with that. But they haven't drafted a ton of linemen, though. Really, tight end. They've done okay at tight end, running back, receiver. I mean, offensively, I think they've been fine drafting. Yeah. It's defense, though. They have it's been whiff after whiff after whiff of first and second round picks. Yeah. And this looks like another one.
Yeah, I mean, that's the same thing with the Browns. I think what it boils down to is where I kind of was upset the most is the Browns don't have many impact players. You can Myles Garrett for sure, and you could maybe argue Denzel Ward when he's healthy. David Njoku maybe a third. At pick 2 in the draft, you are guaranteed to draft an impact player. Like, unless if you screw the pooch. Like Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter would have been an impact player. Okay. And I don't mind trading back every once in a while to get more draft capital, but there is literally no effing impact players. Mason Graham is not going to be – he's going to be, I think, a solid starter for years to come, but I don't think he's got –
I think he's really good. But go ahead.
He doesn't have perennial all-pro written all over him like Abdul Carter did. Okay, you need impact players to make a difference. You don't need a bunch of hogwash that you're drafting. And that's what he's drafting. He's drafting guys, and he's missing on guys at all levels of the draft, on both sides of the ball. He's drafting a little bit better on defense. I'll give him that. But in this particular draft, he drafted almost exclusively offense, and that's where it worries me because the biggest need was offensive line, where a lot of starters are aging, old on last year's their deals, thinking about retirement. Wyatt Teller, Joel Bitonio are thinking about retirement, and you don't draft a single offensive lineman. Yeah. And your first Jedrick Wills, your first round draft pick from 4 years ago, your left tackle is no longer on the team, so another bust. The best thing he's done is extend the talent that the previous GM got. So I think this has to be his last year. Fancy's last year's too. I mean, unless they show positive signs of growth.
Unless Shador actually ends up working out, basically, because it's funny how much faith your fan base has in Flacco. I know it was like fun when he was your quarterback, but he's not a winning quarterback in the NFL at 40 years old. Like, you're not going to win more than 5 games with him as your starter for the whole year. If he can make it, he's 40 and he's a statue.
Cooper had a pretty damn good year that year. He doesn't have a guy like Elijah Moore is a guy. He's a nice guy, but there aren't many weapons on this offense that are going to make a old Flacco look good again. It'd be one thing if you drop Flacco onto the Buccaneers with the plethora of weapons they have and let him go to town. But, man, you're going to have a shaky offensive line and a lack of weapons around either Flacco, a really old quarterback, Kenny Pickett, who is an unproven quarterback and really not a good one, or 2 rookies. I think this is just a bad situation. That's why drafting 2 running backs, drafting these tight ends, you're going to see a hell of a lot of 22 personnel, which isn't going to be a good offense that's going to score many points, that's going to keep us in many games.
Yeah. Okay, so our teams aside from being terrible, Who do you think had a good draft out there?
Ugh. There's teams I didn't like, but teams that I did like, I didn't pay too much attention to a lot of teams' drafts, to be quite honest. Once the fucking Browns just kept shitting the bed with their picks, I kind of tuned out. You can go.
I'll give you a couple. Baltimore did well from like where they're drafting, like they always do. It's basically all the teams at the back of the draft that always just stay put. Don't get worried. Don't trade up, and then just draft all the players that fall to them. Baltimore gets Malachi Starks in the first round, top safety in the class. Then Mike Green in the second round, who fell because of some character concerns, but that's from like when he was younger. And he's a late first round talent. They get late in the second round at a premium position at the edge. Emory Jones in the third round's nice. Then Dallas gets Tyler Booker in the first round. They need to retool that offensive line. Get a first round talent in the second round, a pass rusher at Ezeraku. I can't say his name. And then another one, Siobhan Rebel in the third round at corner, who may have been a first round pick had he not been hurt this year. I thought they did pretty well cleaning up there. And then, like you said, New England, they add a lot of talent around Drake May to see what he can do with Will Campbell on the offensive line. And then, of course, you get Henderson and Kyle Williams then later on, Jared Wilson from Georgia. Like, you retool the offensive line, you retool the weapons around him. They still need, obviously, a top flight wide receiver, but they'll probably be picking high again next year anyway. So they're getting closer there. They're making the steps.
Yeah. I think off the top of my head, the two that came to mind were the Bears and the Panthers. They have two young quarterbacks that need some help on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, the Bears did a lot already in free agency with the offensive line, which was the biggest issue. So you needed some more weapons. DJ Moore and Adunze were nice, but then they added Loveland. They added.
Or do they?
What's that?
They still have DJ Moore? They do. Never mind.
Yeah,
Sorry.
they still have DJ Moore. Yeah, they added Loveland, and they added Luther Burden, which is a big body outside guy, there's something they were kind of lacking. So anyway, and they also added some things just all over the place. So I think the Bears had a good draft to kind of help Caleb Williams, and the Panthers I think they did really well drafting McMillan. They went ahead. A lot of people didn't think they'd go it. I called it. I said that the Saints or the Panthers would probably go McMillan because they need some wide receiver help to help maybe a young quarterback. So I like that pick for them. They got Trevor Etienne, a running back to help them. They got Mitchell Evans, like a tight end to help them. So they got some pieces all over the ball. I think the Panthers did a nice job of helping Bryce Young, which he showed some good signs last year. So those are the two teams. And yeah, the Ravens killed it, I think, too.
Yeah, I do like the Bears. I mean, they're going to know right now if
Yes.
Caleb Williams is it or not, because they are stacked now. Colson Loveland and Kmet at tight end. You got Allen, Moore, Adunes, and Luther Burden at wide receiver now.
They don't have Keenan Allen. He left, but they still have DJ Moore, Adunze, and now Luther Burden. So.
That's who Burden's replacing then is Allen. He is kind of a slottier guy. I don't think he's outside. Then you said they retooled the offensive line. Yeah, they're just stacked kind of everywhere. Like didn't they sign a running back too?
Sounds familiar.
Not anymore, but oh no, they didn't. Sorry, they were getting projected a lot to get Genty in the first round.
Yeah, but I think they're just gonna stick with Swift.
Yeah, mediocre. That's about the only weak spot, but
yeah, but I think they're banking on Caleb still making plays with his legs.
Yeah. Yeah, I like it all. Okay, so we have to talk about Shedeur a little bit real quick. What's the funniest I was rooting for the failure because he is super duper arrogant. His dad's super duper arrogant. It's not all his fault. It's the way he was brought up. Like, what do you take from this? The reason everybody who hasn't paid attention online or whatever or saw it, because it wasn't played up much in the mainstream media really. There were other people that said it, is that the reason he fell is because his interviews at the combine were horrific. Super arrogant, dismissive of the teams drafting him, basically. Like, just said, no, I don't want to play for you, which is something his dad did back in the day, except his dad was running a 4.1840 hand time before they had the electronic times. There's a story about him. The team that had the ninth pick wanted to meet with Dion, and he said, "Nah, I'm not going to meet with you because I'm going to be gone by the time you're picking." Like that type of arrogance, except for he didn't have Deion's talent. So what is the tale here? Is it like dads don't raise your kids in such a bubble where he thinks he's already, God's gift to football, or just preparation for the draft is more important, or what do you think? Did the team?
I think it was just how evil and corrupt I think people can be. I mean, from the prank phone call to the kid, from the Falcons coach's son getting it like that there should be a significant penalty there for leaking his phone number to a kid like that. Just blatantly disrespecting Shador like that. Like, I get the media was pushing Colorado hard on us the last couple of years. Okay, with the personalities they had. And so that's why people were kind of wanting them to fail and wanting Shador to fail. But by God, like, I think he performed pretty admirably given the talent around him at Colorado. The only guy he really had was Travis Hunter. He never had a running back go more than 500 yards in his entire career in college. So he had to be a gunslinger, and he had pretty respectable stats. And if the only knock against him is being a little arrogant and a little fucking cocky, I'll take that over a quarterback like Dylan Gabriel, who says, "Why the fuck do we play in the snow and the rain?"
Yeah,
that was an actual interview from Dylan Gabriel.
I know.
He said, "Why do we play in the elements?" And the
The
Browns,
one-
of all teams, draft. Yeah. So I was rooting for him. I wanted him to do. I like to root for more guys than I root against. So that just kind of was deflating, seeing everybody root against him, seeing guys prank phone call him and stuff like that. It was good for him to be knocked down a peg, because I definitely think you can be overinflated, and I think you need to be raised not in a bubble. So you need to get experience to everything. I was hoping he'd fall to the second or third round, but man, I think people have to be wrong for him to fall to the fifth round.
Talent-wise, there's no doubt. It's just could it be also that you don't like his dad's a coach who has shown interest in the NFL, or allegedly? Do you want that following you? That like, oh, Deion, now I have to worry about Deion coming for my job. Which, I mean, your Stefanski's on the hot seat. Like, could that end up if he plays well enough to, like, okay, Jimmy Haslam wants to roll with him as a starting quarterback for the future, but your team's so bad next year that you need to fire your coach, fire your GM, probably, like you said. New GM is somebody that's affiliated with. Like, this is something, it's going to come up in the media.
Yeah.
It's going to come up in the media.
Especially with the Browns now, because the Watson trade had a lot of Jimmy Haslam's hands on it. Maybe, I mean, you'd have to think that the owner stepped in and said, "I want this, make it happen." And it seems like he did that again. Like, what GM would draft two rookie quarterbacks 2 rounds apart from each other? Yes, we didn't have a fucking quarterback on the roster, but this smells like Jimmy got on the phone and said, "I want Shador." And these guys, they're just yes men. Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski are just yes men. They're willing to do whatever Jimmy does, and now they just basically signed their own death certificate because, God forbid, Shador does good this year, which many people don't want him to do good. It's going to ring the bell. Like, okay, if he starts to look good and the rest of the team starts to look bad, then does Shador, Kevin Stefanski, I probably guarantee you, did not want this. Andrew Berry might be the one who said yes. Maybe it was Jimmy Haslam. So it's going to be interesting to see that Cleveland brought himself this nice entree.
Why is that? Prop deserves it.
Only fucking Cleveland could do this. Like, only Cleveland.
It is such a Cleveland thing. I mean, and Johnny Manziel and Deshaun Watson, like, the people you have brought in to play quarterback are all nut jobs. Like, they're nut jobs outside of football.
Yeah, character fucking issues. And, like, maybe Shador is a character nut job, but, like, nobody was saying that stuff about Travis Hunter. No. Nobody said anything. Travis Hunter came out and said, I will fucking retire if they don't let me play both sides of the ball. And nobody batted an eye to that. Yet they're batting an eye to Shador not
because he's an elite talent.
Yeah, he's an elite talent.
You're elite. Shador is not. I mean, Shador, I think he could be a average, like a top 15, 20-ish NFL quarterback. I do. Because I think his accuracy is legit. Like, the way he can place the ball and throw people open. Like many times I'd watch their games, watch him take a hit and start to like chuckle like, oh, where's this going? And it's like right where it needs to be. Like the dude can sling it a little bit, just doesn't have that like elite arm strength.
Yeah.
And maybe not elite decision making. That's why he took so many sacks. That's what the weaknesses of his actual game is. But like he can go out there, but yeah, falling all the way to the 5th round is not because of anything like that. And when you're bringing that in, and like how does Dylan Gabriel even feel? Oh, okay, I got 3rd round, awesome. Oh crap, a guy that was supposed to go way ahead of me just got picked behind me on the same team.
And the whole like Myles Garrett said, I don't want to be part of this. He basically said, I don't want to be a part of this shit show. I want to be traded because you guys aren't going to be competitive. What the hell does this scream to him now? Like he's getting his $35 million a year, so he probably doesn't care.
He signed the paper, baby.
But that's exactly why he didn't want to be here, and that's exactly why free agents don't come here. It's because we don't have our shit together, and it starts with just drafting a foundation. You drafted extra pick, and that was the other thing. Why I'm more pissed about not getting Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter is because we got more picks for next year to draft a quarterback maybe. For them to us draft 2 quarterbacks now. So what are those extra picks for next year? Like we're going to draft 2 offensive linemen in the 1st round next year?
Even that was a silly thought because I'm like, okay, if you don't end up with the number 1 pick, and there's a quarterback that's that freaking good, you're not getting him. No matter what you offer, you're not getting him.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, that's why it's all over the place. It's like they went into this draft saying, let's fuck shit up, and they did.
Fly by the seat of my pants, my favorite way to lead. All right, well, we'll see how it all works out, though. It's going to be interesting. My computer's about to die, though, so we got to cut this down now. But for the Haas, I'm just Matt. We'll be bringing more Ohio State content to you throughout the offseason. Probably some NFL shit, too. Maybe some crazier things than that, even. But like, subscribe, and comment. If you want to check us out more, make sure you hit that little bell so you get alerts about us. We'll see you guys next time.
Hey guys! Oh, big gulps, huh? All right. Well, see you later.